Hello, folks. This is Mark Henry here to do a live chat with you about the occult and the paranormal. Well, it is about 4:45 Central Standard Time, and here waiting to see if anybody wants to participate in the live chat. I'll be mentioning a few things. For one, the black-eyed children. That was my last video. So if anyone has any questions about the black-eyed children, just to kind of recap, the black-eyed children are these beings that people report. I can't say that there are a lot of reports of them, but there are enough for paranormal investigators to take notice. They take, 12, even though there could be a little bit variations in the distance, variations in the ages. There are smaller reports of black-eyed adults, of what I understand, that they come more one-on-one rather than children, which come in pairs normally. They typically will have the black eyes. They'll have the skin that is usually pale. Sometimes their clothing is not quite right for the time period or for the weather. And they have this ability to be very compelling, and adults who interact with them sometimes feel that they lose a sense of their will and that they have to conform to what the children say. Usually they're asking permission to come in, and they may or may not let them in. I gave some cases of a couple people who did let them in, and they had some unfortunate problems with their health, drops in energy, and that sort of thing. So if you have any questions about the black-eyed children, let me know. Let's see if anybody is. Hey, Chris, how are you? I think you're the first one to show up. Very good. And by the way, if any of you all want notifications of when I go live, find one of my videos and hit the bell, click it, and it should let you know whenever I do this. I try to let people know in advance whenever I plan on holding these sessions. So while we're here, I kind of want to give a suggestion of some books. I don't think that I did this during the Black-Eyed Children video. I did mention his name, author Nick Redfern. The Jinn, Shadow People, talks a little bit about aliens, bedroom invaders, creatures that make us sick, and even zombies. His hypothesis is that a lot of these creatures have something common in that they try to feed on us in one form or another, usually through our energy. The zombies, I can't say that I read that chapter, but the whole zombie idea of eating brains for survival and nourishment is kind of in keeping with that. Be curious to see what he has to say about that, whether he believes that there are actually zombie sort of spirits that do the same thing. So that book is really good. Anything by him is decent. Another book that I like, and this has more to do if you like Men in Black and things like that. This is John Keel and the Mothman Prophecies. Just to give you kind of a little bit of background, the Mothman, there was actually a movie that came out, I want to say in maybe the late 90s with Richard Gere. Now, this movie is only loosely based on this book. Richard Gere plays a gentleman who is driving along with his wife. I think they get in a car accident, She she's hurt. They go to the hospital. They figure out that she has another illness resulting of that, and he's heartbroken. And I'm not going to give away too much because I'm not someone to give a lot of spoilers. However, after she passes, then he finds himself in this strange sort of position where he loses track of time. People are saying that he's been certain places that he doesn't remember driving to, and it leads into the Mothman. So, in the Mothman prophecies, John Keel does an investigation of what happened in Point Pleasant, West Virginia in the 60s. It took place for, I want to say, about a year, where they had a whole slew of paranormal phenomena happen in one brief time period of a year, where folks were reporting this large winged creature with red eyes that would follow them in their car, or they would show up blocking streets and things like that. One gentleman was with his girlfriend making out, and the Mothman creature came upon them, and there was the red eyes and the light, and when he looked at him, he actually burned his eyes pretty badly, and it took him a while to recover. This went on in concert with other unusual things, reports of UFOs, Men in Black. That's when that sort of thing happened. And these people from saying that the government who went and check on these UFO sightings, and they're very odd to begin with, like the black-eyed children. They're like, they look human, but they don't have necessarily human behaviors, very strange eccentricities that you wouldn't expect from professional government officials. So they went into Point Pleasant, go into diners. People think this is really strange. They don't know how to eat with utensils. They ask really strange things that anybody that has common sense would know. And this went on. Now, this unusual event in that town's history went on until there was a complete collapse of their bridge, the Silver Bridge. When that happened, I think anywhere between like 50 and 60 people died from the collapse. And from that event, everything stopped. All of the paranormal events, just ceased. There's no more reports. So get you thinking, were things happening? Was this part of, the culture of that time period, of that time when science fiction was coming out? People were kind of seeing things. Who knows? But it's definitely interesting food for thought. So I recommend both those books, The Mothman Prophecies and The Paranormal Parasites by Nick Redfern. Okay. So if any, by the way, if I'm just putting this out here, you can ask questions at any time. If you have any questions about some of the last few videos that I did that maybe you didn't put in the comments in the video, feel free. I check my comments regularly, and I try to respond to everybody's comments. I saw one funny one. This, you can check it out. It could be a feminine Facebook moniker, basically was saying with the Qliphoth video that I did that these aren't real teachings, that hell is real, and don't listen to my teachings and things like that. So I might leave that just because you want have a lot of diversity in your comments. But I thought that was pretty funny. I'm not a proponent of working with the Qliphoth. although I think that it could be beneficial in certain regards. I'm not an all or nothing type of dualistic type of thinker where I can see everything is bad or everything is good. No, I mean, I put this information out there and I let you all judge and decide. And in that decision, make a decision to participate in those things or not. What usually happens to people that encounter the black-eyed children? Well, what usually happens to them? The I, I mentioned the gentleman whose his last name was Bethel, who was the first. I guess he was the one that put it out there in the 90s that, hey, this happened to me. What happened to him was that he felt compelled to open the door, but he had to catch himself from doing it. These kids at the time were given these red flags or saying creepy things to him. Oh, we're not going to hurt you, mister. Telling him, you know, we just go to give us a ride to give us some money. And so if the moral of the story is the people that do not let them enter their car or their residence are okay and nothing really happens to them. If the person maybe is not strong enough and lets them in, then what happens is that they typically will get into this sudden state of fatigue. They don't feel like themselves. I was reading one account of this guy who his wife let the black-eyed children in. It was a young girl and a young boy. Lights went out. The husband was in the couch, just suddenly feeling bad, and his nose started bleeding. Electrical things in the house at that time weren't acting right. Lights went out. And then, you know, the lights went back on and they left. So it was a lot of curious type of things happening at once. And then later on, if I remember correctly, he got diagnosed with some type of major medical illness. So just to be safe, if you see these kids around, you know, think twice before letting them in, unless you want to have that experience. But it seems like from what I've read so far, it hasn't worked out too well. Isis, I remember. Good to see you. I remember fighting with that. Well, okay. Do you believe in the Fae and that some of them can be more than mischievous? Now, the whole idea of, if you look at some of the work of Jacques Vallée is a UFO researcher, paranormal investigator, but who's stretched all the way to the 60s. He's been doing this. He's much older gentleman now, but he has one of the first people to draw these parallels between things like UFOs, you know, black-eyed children, and the fairies. Because in Europe, when the fairies were, I guess people were invested more emotional energy into fairies and thinking about them and experiencing them and talking about them, that this is what the fairies supposedly did. Is that they were very mischievous. Now, when I think about the fairies, I think not so much the black-eyed children, but when I'm thinking about them, I think more about, you were talking about the jinn who can shapeshift. They can be very compelling. So that's more of the way that I was thinking about it, a little less than the black-eyed children. But I can definitely see with, you know, being fairy charmed, as they say, of hearing the fairy songs and being kind of enthralled in them, seeing people falling in love with the fairies. So yeah, I agree. Be very mischievous. Okay, so I was, I guess, just talk about a personal experience that I recently had. My bedroom 8, 9 months ago, there was a plumbing problem. The toilet overflowed, went into the bedroom, destroyed all the carpet, and as a result of that, I had to get my box cutter, cut it all out, grab it, get rid of it, get the fans, get everything, get all the water up, and so now there was a slab. So it took me a while to, after I did that, just to go and decide to get the floor done. But I finally got the floor done. So had some people come in after I did the preliminary work of getting rid of the tack strips and all that. They came in and we put some laminate. So then when I went to the bedroom, realized that it felt not quite right. Slept in it a couple nights after all the furniture, bed was moved back in. Not sleeping well, nightmares, heart racing. So I decided to just sit with it, this experience in the room, and figure out what's going on. And it felt heavy. It felt kind of oppressive. So whenever you experience that, you have to try to distinguish. Okay, so what type of experience is this? Because this could have multiple causes. I didn't get the sense that there was some type of low vibrational spirit or anything around that is actually trying to influence the environment or mess with me or anything. So I got the spiritual guidance that this was some thought forms that had resulted in this kind of lingering around, because in this room, I went back and cataloged that there was just a lot of illness. There was these workers who were coming in and, running into problems, putting in the floor, mumbling and cursing under their breath and stuff. There was a sighting of a shadow person in the room previous, but it was just a buildup of a lot of different things over a period of time. And this is just where it was. This is where the state of the energy of the room. So I decided to do something about it. So I have, I guess, as someone who does magic, I have the ability to do a lot of different things, a lot of different tools in my toolbox. So with that particular situation, I wanted to do something very high vibrational. So what I did was, let me get some comments. Yeah. Definitely believe in the gym, but also had some fairy experiences. For many involved in the cult and magic, the paranormal is quite normal. Would you say this is true for you? Yes, it becomes part of your life. It just becomes something that you do. It becomes part of your lifestyle. So what I decided to do was to, had some frankincense incense. So I burned that. I have also I have some tools from esoteric Christianity. So I have a vial of holy waters from 7 different churches that I use. So I took that and anointed all the walls around it. I also did a 3-day ritual to working with the archangels to clear the space. So I didn't want to leave any stone unturned. I wanted to feel good. I wanted to be just done. So needless to say, it worked, because I've been sleeping in the bedroom for 3 days afterwards. I've been sleeping like a baby. Been completely peaceful, been completely just nice, the way that you would want to, comfortable, the way that you'd want to have your bedroom to sleep well and have good, restorative, restful sleep. But I'm certain that if I would have left things the way that it was, this would have gone on and on. It could have potentially built up. See, the whole thing about these thought forms is that if you leave them, they affect you. They can affect you spiritually, they will affect you psychologically, emotionally, and the more one, that it can attract some negative entities that you don't want it to attract, and two, by you being in that environment, you can certainly be distressed, be anxious, and thus add to the thought forms. So my advice for everybody is to regularly clear the space in your house, especially places that you sleep. If you live in a house where there is a lot of conflict, where there's a lot of fighting and arguing, you may have to do this more often. But because of the arguing and the fighting will create this energy, and it will add to the distress of the people arguing and fighting, and it's just not a good situation. Thanks, Chris. I appreciate it. Glad you're here. So yes, now the trick for you, if you're in a house with a lot of conflict, you may have some people in your house, if you're living with somebody, roommates or family, that are not necessarily into the same things that you are. If you could, I would do this maybe when they're not there, but it would only help them. Ideally, you want to get them on your side and talk about it, and have them at least say, okay, what they believe is harmless, maybe I'll just go along with it. That'd be the best situation. However, you don't always have that. But I guess the point is that to do this if you can, because it will clear the energy of the house, and it will have a measurable effect. All right. Do you have any questions again about some of the previous videos? Questions about what I do as far as my practice? I don't know where it is around where you all are right now. It's pretty hot down here south, so we have about 95 degrees. Now that isn't necessarily too bad. It's uncomfortable. What gets us down here is the humidity. Today, the humidity is not too bad. It's 50%. But when we're getting into July and August, the humidity is going to rise significantly. So we could easily get 80, 90, 100% humidity with upper 90s, which is going to be really uncomfortable. So I am a little crazy for doing this video out here on my patio rather than going inside. But I don't care. I like doing it out here. Florida water. I actually get a really good effect from Florida water. So Florida water is something that's easy to buy. It will say on their cologne. They use it in Hoodoo tradition, and I believe that they use it. They use it in Voodoo too. I wouldn't necessarily wear it as a cologne per se, because it's really cheap, and I don't think it does its job as far as going out a date and you're wearing Florida water. However, it does do the job in cleansing. I've taken it when I'm just feeling really icky, when I feel like I've got, maybe even just having a bad day, and I'm angry, and I have that energy in my energy field, and I'm sweating and got that. See, all of that is just adds to everything. So I'll take this Florida water and I'll get in my hands and I'll like put it down my body. If you are somebody, if you are, want to almost do like a banishing, you want to banish all of the bad things from the day, you can take the Florida water and go downward your body with your body, almost like you're taking it away from you. So yeah, I've done that before. Don't go to bed with Florida water on you necessarily. If you're sleeping with somebody, because that the scent will carry, and all of that. So you might want to take a bath after you do your cleansing ritual with the Florida water. That's something very practical. Uh, yeah, but I like Florida water, and I've used it to cleanse. I've used it to cleanse my altar items. I've used it to cleanse my Hecate statue. Of course, I had to consult with Hecate to make sure that that was appropriate, because what we're doing is we're taking something that is not part. Florida water is not part of necessarily the tradition that Hecate comes from, so I want to ask permission. But let's say I was doing something with more of a the African-based type of stuff, like if I was doing a ritual involving Papa Legba, or down here Marie Laveau, that would be perfectly appropriate as a cleansing agent. Also, as a side note, if while listening to how I cleanse the room, if you wanted to do it differently than doing kind of my esoteric Christianity flavor of banishing the energy, I chose that because that is a high vibrational energy, and I just wanted to do that. But if you want to do something more, let's say, traditional witchcraft, European style type of thing, you could do the same thing with using the 4 elements. You can still use the incense. You might, bless water with salt in it. Do that. You can get your athame and do some banishing strokes of the pentagram to make it more particular tradition. So I'm not saying that the way I did it was the only way that it can be done. But it would include the 4 elements that way, so you cover all your bases. Hoodoo voodoo are new tools for me. I've done so much with different kinds of magic. You live where it's probably more common in the magic community. Yes, I actually worked in the for 2 years in I guess you can consider it kind of like a hoodoo shop, that catered to the religious traditions of local people, and I guess say maybe the poor areas of town. So we sold all of those supplies: 7-day candles, Florida water, incense. You can leave your candles there. We would dress your candles with herbs, with oils. We sold oils. We had readers come in, do readings. It was a really good job. I learned a lot. But yeah, down here, it's much more popular, especially when you're getting, especially closer to New Orleans. which isn't far away. It's only about an hour from me. Okay, it's humid here in France to mark 92 degrees. Thus doors are always open from now until October. Can I ask how best do I protect these entrances? There are a lot of different ways that you can do it. You can use sea salt. What you might want to do is, if you know sigil magic, you might be able, if you didn't see that video, I believe I have a couple videos on sigil magic, basic sigil magic, and you can create a sigil, and you might want to do the salt water, bless it, and on your door, do your sigil. That would be a good idea. And when you do that, you can empower it to say that when people look at your door, it strengthens your sigil for whatever purpose you're trying to do, for protection or to transform the energy, negative energy of anyone that comes through. You could also do it something where if you look out your door, let's say you're walking through your door and you're looking straight ahead, if there is a wall that's right there across the room, you can actually put something there. Maybe if you are living in a place where you can put artwork or pictures, you can actually put a sigil on the wall if you want to. That way it's facing whoever enters the doorway. So just some ideas. I've never worked with Hecate and Santa Muerte at the same time. I haven't really felt the need to work with Santa Muerte, so I really haven't had a lot of experience with her, although I know about her and how to work with her on a basic level. But I've heard that too. Mama Muerte. Yeah. All right. Thank you, folks, for tuning in and all of your comments. A lot of participation today. So I am going to go ahead and go make some dinner, and I will see you all a little later. Okay? Have a good rest of the weekend. Bye-bye.